This work is Pink Panther by Jeff Koons. It was made in 1988 and was a porcelain on Formica base. This is a life-sized, in-the-round, glazed porcelain statue. A pin-up woman is shown with very large blonde hair with a pink bow. She is wearing a mint blue dress that comes up to her ribs. She has very large breasts and is a representation of female ideal beauty. Her right hand covers one of her breasts, while Pink Panther is bent over her right shoulder, limp and covering the other breast. Her gaze is looking up and outwards, while she is smiling and looks careless that her chest is exposed.
Pink Panther is clasped on her back with one hand as well as his tail that wraps around her waist while looking directly outwards. If you turn to look at her back, you can see that Pink Panther's expression is in a fatigued state.
This features many curvilinear lines, as well as many muted colors like blue and pink. Pink Panther is an example of kitsch, which means it is meant to appeal to the masses. There have been 4 identical statues made of this work. The woman depicted is Jayne Mansfield, a 1960s B-list Hollywood star. She starred in several Hollywood films in which her platinum blonde hair and hourglass figure was highlighted. Mansfield was seen as a sex symbol during the 1950s and 60s. Mansfield married 3 different times, all ending in divorce, and was allegedly having affairs with many people, including JFK. She tragically died in a car crash in 1967 and at the age of 34.
Although the statue was made around 20 years after Mansfield died, Koons picked her because she was well known and an icon of pop culture, as well as Pink Panther, who was popular among kids at the same time. Pink Panther was created by Howie Pratt and was given his own TV show in the 60s, which ultimately led to his fame taking off. Mansfield was also known for having a wardrobe malfunctions where her clothes would fall off all the time. She used this tactic to gain publicity, and this could very be well why Jeff Koons chose to make her half nude.
This was in an exhibition called Banality in New York. This exhibition was made of around 20 different sculptures that featured pop art and mass-market knickknacks. Avant-gardes were seen as far back as Marcel Duchamp, The Fountain, in 1917, but Koons was seen differently, as he was one of the first successful artists during the avant-garde movement. Pink Panther is a postmodernist piece. This work is about getting a reaction from the viewer. Jeff Koons turns these 2 very well-known pop culture figures into high art. Koons takes advantage of familiar images. He wants us as a viewer to think about whether what we see is of high or low value.
Art is about empowerment, and that you have to start with your own cultural history. And a work like Pink Panther very clearly tries to communicate that each viewer's cultural history is perfect.
By leaving interpretation of his work to the viewer, Jeff Koons is questioning the meaningless of art and life. This image of Pink Panther and a famous pop culture figure could bring up issues of childhood, innocence, and sexuality, which is seen throughout Jeff Koons' career.
The artwork can symbolize society that lacks depth and is constantly switching between materiality and meaning. It celebrates randomness without having a higher meaning.
It challenges the difference between ironic appropriation and art itself. An art historian, Scott Rothkopf, says, "The boundaries he has broken are unique to his historical position with art's great narrative and draws on the larger forces, technological, financial, social, and otherwise, of the moment in which we live. His art does not merely reflect or absorb its context, be it gallery, home, magazine, billboard, or museum. It gives as much as it takes, drawing in its surroundings and illuminating them with a peculiar truth-telling aura." Pink Panther by Jeff Koons can connect to The Fountain by Marcel Duchamp because of the unusual idea and experimentation with these new ideas, and Object by Merritt Oppenheim for the same reasons. Other works Jeff Koons produced are Michael Jackson and Bubbles, which was made in 1988, as well as Balloon Dog, which was made in 1994. Both works show similarities to Pink Panther.
So the second work is En la Barberia no se Laura. The artist is Papon Osorio. It was made in 1994. The materials are mixed media with barber chairs, photographs, objects, and contemporary art. The location is Hartford, Connecticut, but the culture is Puerto Rican, and the patron is Real Artways. So the vocab word for both of these works is kitsch, which means art, objects, or a design considered to be in poor taste because of excessive garnishness or sentimentality, but sometimes appreciated in an ironic or knowing way. The art itself is visually lavish. His installations have often been dubbed New Yorkian Baroque, which is a reference to the 17th style century characterized by theatricality and found in both Europe and Latin America.
The walls of the work are a kind of salmon pink color and are decorated with an assortment of different rims of wheels and framed portraits depicting famous Latin American and Latino men.
As you can tell, this is meant to be a barbershop, which is why there are barber's chairs. These chairs are all decorated with kitschs. There's a Puerto Rican flag displayed at the foot of the chair and an assortment of different items decorating the chair. Some of these items being fake foliage, baseballs, religious ornaments, plastic toys, dolls, ribbons, beads, and more. There are also video installations featuring Latino men from Park Street in stereotypically masculine poses. The men vary in age, making it more diverse, and the floor of the room has a black and white checkered pattern to it, and the room feels horror vacuum-like because of the large arrangement of motifs such as plants, geometric motifs on the floor, and the vibrant colors of the paint cans in the background, and the toys on the chairs. In the corner of the room, you can see a man with sores all over his body and his clothing draped around his waist. This man is Saint Lazarus, who is a part of the Afro-Cuban religion.
He is typically related to health and illness. He's standing with a dog, multiple bouquets of flowers, and a Virgin of Guadalupe candles.
There's also a pool table placed in the center of the room that's surrounded by the barber's chairs and mirrors. There are lots of circular forms throughout this work, as well as many different colors. This work is typically represented as an installation piece and creates a diverse environment that invites viewers to engage with the space and contemplate its themes. The artist of the work, Pepon Osorio, was born in Puerto Rico, and his work reflects the Latino and New Yorkian community. He was from a working class background and was a social worker in the Bronx. His work is inspired by each of these experiences and is rooted in the spaces and people of American Latino culture, particularly the communities.
Osorio vowed to show his work first within the community and then elsewhere. This work was inspired by his first haircut in Santurce, Puerto Rico, and he cried while it was happening.
With your barber. And Osorio himself has talked about how when he was 5, his father took him to the barbershop to get his hair cut for the first time, and how it was a rather traumatic experience. And he started to cry, but of course, you're not allowed to cry in the barbershop because this is a rite of passage into manhood. And so the idea that this is also a space where masculinity is supposed to be not only on display but reinforced was one that he felt very personally.
Osorio recreates the space of a barbershop as one that is intensely packed with masculine symbols such as barber chairs, car seats, and sports paraphernalia. This made him a large symbol of masculinity in Latin America and New York during this time period. En la barberia no se llora actually means no crying allowed in the barbershop.
The first week of his exhibit being open, they were giving free haircuts to the viewers and the community.
The toys on the chairs represent boyhood being lost when young males take seat at the haircut chairs, which is kind of like a coming of age moment. And the car rims on the walls represent the importance of cars and automobiles in Latin America. Imprinted on each of the barber's chairs is a nude man's body from the neck down to represent vulnerability. The elements like the fake plants and pool table make this shop feel like a place to socialize and express culture. Osorio's large-scale installations were meant for a local audience. While it challenges definitions of masculinity, it also brings up the relationship between masculine pride, homophobia, violence, and infidelity, as long as the ways in some culture, religion, and politics cause these issues and shape men in their personal relationships.
This work draws attention to the everyday movements of men and women in urban communities and pushes the boundaries of the idea of what is art and who's art for.
Very interesting how he added screens to the mirrors. After you spend your time in the barber, you are then swiveled to look at yourself and approve of what they've done. But in the manner in which Osorio has manipulated the mirror, the person sitting in that barber chair would be confronted with scenes of emotion, of men crying, of exhibiting that emotion that contradicts that notion that men don't cry, that boys don't cry. So he's confronting or pushing against that notion of a macho man who cannot express his emotion in a place that seems to socialize you to be that way, to repress your emotions. But it is a place of socialization, of cultural expression. The more you look into it, the more you observe and reflect, you continue to explore those layers of complexity in both cultural expression and gender expression inside the Latino community.
En la Barbería No Se Llora serves multiple functions within the realm of contemporary art. Firstly, it serves as a critique of traditional gender norms and expectations, particularly regarding expressions of emotion and vulnerability. Through its interactive aspects, like the TV screens and objects decorating the chairs, the artwork invites the viewers to reflect on their own experiences and perceptions of masculinity, community, and cultural identity. This work connects to Liberty Leading the People because both works bring up ideas of violence and both share ideas of infidelity. They both also have highlights of that dramatic Baroque red color like in the French flag and the velvet barber seats. It also connects with Tête-à-Tête because they both have aspects of intimacy and fidelity.